Lu Sheng turned his back on everyone, began to walk towards the crystal pillar, and with a calm look, he decided to undergo certification. The captain crossed his arms, started looking at him, and couldn't help but start smiling. Red Jade also started looking at him and simply remained silent. While Lu Sheng was moving away from them, the captain slightly turned his head towards her and told her that he didn't even have a certification. She began to look at the captain with a confused look and remained silent. As he had one hand in his pocket, he took out the other one and started pointing at Lu Sheng with his thumb. He explained to Red Jade that her Tigers and Scorpions team was at least in a grade star team. He couldn't believe how a rookie like Lu Sheng, who hadn't even been certified, could join them. Red Jade approached the captain, started staring into his eyes, and asked him why this mattered so much to him. She also asked him what would happen if she, an old cow, ate tender grass. The captain simply remained silent. He didn't know what was happening. She crossed her arms and with a disdainful look explained to him that chasing after her also counted as an old cow eating tender grass. She also reminded him that he was almost 80 years old. Her words were like a big rock falling on him. Within seconds, the captain lost his composure, started shaking his head from side to side, and tried to give her an explanation. The captain's men approached him and grabbed him by the arms. Just before he could say a word, she interrupted him, began looking at Lu Sheng and with a serious look, asked the captain to stop talking and advised him to pay close attention to Lu Sheng's test. She also added that despite being 20 years old now, everyone was going to see something impressive. Upon hearing this, the captain couldn't help but become somewhat confused. He began to look at Red Jade with a puzzled expression and asked her what she meant by this. He started imagining his own achievements and explained to Red Jade that in the end, he was one of the best in the 9th Battle District. He was on the list of 7-star grade experts. After saying this, he clenched his teeth tightly and with a proud look, revealed to her that he was among the top 10. He asked her what level of martial skill someone as young as Lu Sheng could reach. He went crazy, started spinning his head, began pointing at himself with his thumbs, and explained to her that despite being 80 years old, he was in his prime. It wouldn't be long before he could cross the celestial and earthly bridges. He began envisioning himself as a great master, holding a sword. He clenched his fists and with a determined look, explained to everyone that even before reaching 150 years old, he could achieve the level of a great master. Lu Sheng approached the crystal pillar, assumed an offensive stance, and prepared to strike it. The captain began pointing at him with his finger and asked Red Jade what he had. After saying this, he started imagining Lu Sheng handsome and with abs, then began pointing at himself with his thumb and with a serious look, told Red Jade that Lu Sheng had nothing besides his appearance. He also asked her in what aspect Lu Sheng could surpass him. The captain's men began to dance and jump for joy like ballerinas. According to them, Captain Hong Yu was not bad. The bald man explained to Red Jade that the captain was a top-notch mating partner, hard to find a better one. The captain put his hand under his chin, closed his eyes, and couldn't help but feel happy and think that his subordinates were the best. Red Jade's bald companion stepped forward, clenched his fists, and asked them why they were saying such nonsense. Red Jade, who had her arms crossed, began to look at the bald man in silence, wondering why he was getting involved in this. Upon hearing this, Captain Hong Yu and his men looked at the bald man with a confused expression and couldn't help but wonder where this guy had come from. The bald man approached the captain, began pointing at Lu Sheng with his finger, and with a smile asked him what would happen if it turned out that Lu Sheng was not only more handsome than him but also much stronger. Hong Hu started looking at the bald man and couldn't help but wonder what nonsense he was saying. He began to turn his head to one side, clenched his teeth tightly, and while sweat was dripping from his forehead, he asked the bald man if he was saying that Lu Sheng was stronger than him. He thought he was delirious because he hadn't slept well. He turned his body towards the crystal pillar, and at that moment, the crystal pillar started emitting a bright light, which began to blind everyone. Several seconds later, once the light disappeared, everyone started looking towards the crystal pillar, and upon seeing what their eyes were witnessing, they couldn't help but be shocked and wonder what was happening. Captain Hong Hu began to look towards the crystal pillar, and upon seeing what was happening, he couldn't help but be dumbfounded. He thought this was impossible. Everyone present in the room was shocked. Lu Sheng struck the crystal pillar, causing several diamonds to appear inside. Gradually, his energy began to rise through the pillar, passing from diamond to diamond. Several seconds later, his golden energy reached the second to last diamond. Lu Sheng clenched his fist and took a few steps back, silently observing it. In the blink of an eye, his energy reached every diamond, causing the crystal pillar to start shining. Lu Sheng simply stared at the pillar with a calm gaze and remained lost in thought. According to the crystal pillar, Lu Sheng had a combat power of 124 million points. Upon seeing this, the man who was recording the test scores fell backwards onto the ground, accidentally dropping his tablet in the process. As he had both hands on the ground, he looked at the score and couldn't help but be shocked and start trembling upon realizing that Lu Sheng had a combat power of 124 million points. The man became happy, clenched both fists, and started looking towards the crystal pillar with a surprised expression. Upon seeing that 12 stars had been illuminated in total, he revealed to everyone that Lu Sheng was a great first-class master. Upon hearing this, Captain Hong Hu's expression changed drastically. He was left speechless and shocked at the same time. He couldn't believe that Lu Sheng was a great first-class master. It all seemed like a joke to him. A minute ago on the second floor of the War Stars Center, specifically in the mission delivery area, several soldiers arrived. While some were looking at the board, others began to converse among themselves. Among the soldiers was a man with purple hair. With one hand on his waist, he started touching his face with the other and looked at the mission board. He asked Captain to check out the level of mission where they had to help rebuild the defense line. The captain was a muscular man. He put his hands in his pants pockets and with a calm look explained to his subordinate that the mission regarding the approach of the beasts had been cancelled for some reason. He started looking at the mission board and with a serious look, he realized that this line of defense had not been broken and suddenly they didn't need cleaning anymore. They had come in search of this mission, but when they saw that the army hadn't given a clear explanation, they thought the mission had been cancelled. He decided to select another mission since many derivative missions had appeared in the new cave. The man with purple hair began to look at the mission board and decided to accept the captain's idea. At that moment, the ground started shaking. All the soldiers fell to the floor and couldn't help but wonder if there was an earthquake. Everyone fell to the ground. The captain placed one hand on the floor, put the other on his knee, and as he was getting up, he started looking towards the ground and began to wonder how it was possible for there to be an earthquake in the center of the military district. For him this made no sense. He realized that the epicenter was coming from below. He knew that this kind of thing always seemed to have happened before. All the soldiers began to stand up, and the captain remembered that when General Chen Anxing had been testing his combat ability, he had made the second floor start shaking just like now. One of the soldiers told the captain that this was true because he had also been there at that time. The reality was that the crystal pillar was connected to the entire building. The captain stood up, started looking towards the ceiling, and with a serious look explained to everyone that underneath was the strength testing laboratory, where synthetic crystal pillars were connected to the main axis of the building. So with enough force, one could penetrate into the structure of the building. At that moment, the War Star table of the 9th district began to update. Everyone approached to see the table. In position number 1 was Lu Sheng. His combat power was 12.5 stars. The merit value was not calculated yet, and he ranked first overall. In position number 2 was General Chen Anxian. His combat power was 9 stars, and his merit value was 1,330,000. Several seconds later, the table updated again and revealed to everyone that Lu Sheng had a combat power of 12 full stars. His merit value was still not calculated yet. He remained first in the general ranking but dropped to 8th in the overall ranking. Everyone approached the table and upon seeing this, they couldn't help but be somewhat surprised. The captain started to sweat, and upon looking more closely, he realized that he had never seen this name before. He didn't know if this was the first time someone had reached first place in the tests of the new 9th district. Everyone started talking among themselves. People couldn't believe that someone had made a direct landing in first place. No one knew where this guy Lu Sheng had come from, or how they had never heard of him before. They couldn't believe that he had a combat power of 12.5 stars and almost 100 million points. A chubby soldier approached the table, clenched his fists, and with a joyful look, thought that the 9th district was producing another great first-class master. Although his merit value had not been calculated yet, he was already in 8th place in the overall ranking. He hoped that eventually, the East would also have another 8th star. The captain with blonde hair and a scar on his face put his arms behind his back and approached them. He told the chubby soldier that it wasn't just that. Obtaining the 8th star was only a matter of time. He asked everyone which martial artist from the East could have 12.5 stars of combat power. The highest he had seen were 11 stars. Lu Sheng was only in 8th place overall due to a lack of merit value. The captain clenched his fist and with a smile thought that they were really going to be able to produce a true master. Everyone started running towards the testing room. They decided to go together to see this newcomer first. At the same time in the testing room, Lu Sheng clenched his fist and as his body emitted a golden energy, He began to look at his fist and remained silently lost in thought. He couldn't believe that he had surpassed 100 million power combat points with a simple move like the Sky Grip. Then he thought that it was also true that even when he hadn't achieved the Immortal Cell, he could crush a great master with one hand, although the superior star wasn't a true master. Lu Sheng began to imagine himself strangling the superior star, and with a smile, he thought this wasn't bad. He remembered that the War Association had set the lowest combat power standard for great masters at 20 million. He had obtained 124 million combat power points. He began to look down and couldn't help but start smiling, as this was like the threshold of power for a master. He snapped out of his trance and with a calm gaze remembered that the combat power of the weakest Grand Master was much higher than 20 million. Just by crossing a bridge, a master could easily increase to over 40 million. According to Lu Sheng, level 8 was truly intense. Lu Sheng began to approach the exit. The man who was recording the test picked up the tablet from the floor, stood up, started looking at Lu Sheng and couldn't help but start trembling. The man took the tablet with both hands, bowed his head before him, called him commander and asked if he wanted to do another test. Lu Sheng moved away from him, started waving goodbye to him, and with a calm look, he replied that it was not necessary to do another test. While his body was surrounded by a powerful blue energy, he slightly turned his head back, began to stare fixedly at the man and explained that he had not been resting well lately, and this was his current limit. Upon hearing this, he couldn't help but start sweating, thinking that this was not even his limit. He couldn't help but think that this was too terrifying. He lowered his head again in front of Lu Sheng, called him commander once more, and asked him to wait a moment as he would enter the information immediately. Lu Sheng turned his back on him and with a smile, silently started to walk away. Several seconds later, he approached Red Jade, who began to look at him with a loving gaze and couldn't help but be mesmerized. Lu Sheng looked into her eyes and asked cheerfully what came next. She put her hand near her mouth and as she started to blush, she fell even more in love with him. She couldn't believe that he had a combat power of 100 million. Several seconds passed and she didn't respond. Lu Sheng began waving his hand in front of her face and with a confused look, he got her attention, asking if she was okay. Upon hearing his voice, she snapped out of her trance, covered her mouth with her fist, and while turning as red as a tomato, looked away and started coughing. She adopted a seductive pose, and with a loving look, explained to Lu Sheng that the value of merit was still not completely clear, so for now there was nothing else to do. He could go choose the residence he preferred. Seeing this, poor Captain Hong, who fell to his knees on the ground, supported both hands on his knees and couldn't help but feel sad and defeated. Lu Sheng looked to the side and upon seeing this, he couldn't help but feel somewhat confused. The captain prostrated himself before him, forcefully hitting his head on the ground, and apologized for his words and also asked him not to take them the wrong way. He sat down, closed his eyes, extended his hands, and apologized again. Then he hit his head against the ground once more and prostrated himself before Lu Sheng, asking for forgiveness again. The captain's subordinates also prostrated themselves before Lu Sheng. The bald man started sweating and, while looking at the ground, explained to him that their captain had some problems and often spoke nonsense. The other man began to feel scared and explained that their captain was powerful but had mental issues. The bald man began to tremble and told him that this was true. The other man also started trembling, slightly raised his head and mentioned that in the entire 9th War District it was difficult to find someone like that. The captain, who was prostrated before him, clasped his hands together and began to apologize. Lu Sheng approached him, and with a pleasant look accepted his apologies and asked him to keep it in mind for next time. Red Jade, who had her arms crossed, simply began to look at the captain and remained silent. Seeing that Lu Sheng had forgiven them, the captain knelt down, clasped his hands together, and while tears were falling from his eyes, he thanked him for his understanding. His subordinates also knelt down and thanked him as well. The captain placed both hands on the ground and started crying. He began to imagine Lu Sheng sitting on a throne next to Red Jade. If someone with this kind of power got angry at him, he didn't know if there would be a next time. He also thought that Zhang Hongyu had turned out to be an opportunist, and now he hated her. At that moment, the blonde-haired captain opened the door of the testing room with both hands, and, with a surprised look, caught everyone's attention. He started asking who Lu Sheng was. The door to the room opened completely and the captain and a group of soldiers began entering the room, asking who Lu Sheng was. Lu Sheng and Red Jade started looking towards the door and remained silent. This is the end of the video. If you guys want to see the next part, then don't forget to subscribe and like the video.